claim. He proposed the setting up of an independent emoluments committee to look at emoluments right from the president to the ordinary labourer, unquote. Once it is done, everyone will feel a sense of fairness in terms of how much he or she is remunerated. When they are put on the same plane, it will take away the extortion, unquote. He affirmed his commitment to ensure that doctors, teachers and all workers were properly remunerated for the work they did. On the court action challenging his legitimacy, President Mahama said it was not a bother to him since it was part of the country's democratic process. He said the Constitution had made provision for people who were not satisfied with elections to seek redress in court. He said he did not have any worries because he had confidence in the fairness of the elections.
Dr. Bawumia is the first to be called to the witness box. The court takes a short recess to deliberate on the petitions that is being subjected to the House and raised by lawyer Kwashi Eden, representing the Electoral Commission, supported by Chachuche Kata NDC and Tony Letha NDC. According to the respondents, the evidence that Dr. Bawumia is given on the annulment of votes was not stated in the affidavit served by the petitioners on the court. The respondents are urging the petitioners to amend their earlier petition to include the new evidence that they intend to sneak into the trial. We're crossing over to the Supreme Court premises where my colleague Curtis Howard is standing by to give us the atmosphere outside the courtroom. Hello, Curtis.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Curtis. I hope you're well wherever you are.
Yes, I'm outside the court premises now.
All right, yeah. So could you tell us what exactly is happening outside the court?
Okay, just there was a short recess and most of the lawyers came out. And I think that attracted a large group of supporters of both the NPP and NDC, pockets of them anyway, who had come to the court premises. They all came out. They thought actually the case had been adjourned or they wanted to fish out for information. But apparently when they learned that the case had been, that the judges were going in for a short recess, they just went back to their hideout. Let me put it that way, because you don't seem to know where they are, but immediately they see the lawyers and the other party figures coming out, then they just tend to crowd the place. That's like the situation yesterday. The police were up here and they are well in their numbers to control the crowd situation.
So from what you're saying, then thankfully there hasn't been any violence or any misunderstanding by the crowd outside the court.
No, not like what happened yesterday when the flag bearer of the NPP, Nana Kupado, came and the bodyguard. This time when the bodyguards came, well, they were prevented from entering the court premises. They caused some little skirmishes here and there, just like what happened. But this time it was very, very mild, and the police came in again and told them that only those with accreditation will enter into the court premises. So they told them that the next time they're coming, once they see Nana Addo off to the main entrance of the courtroom, they should just return so that no peace can prevail. But today the situation in the court, outside the court premises today, I can say for a fact, has been very mild and very calm.
Since you're standing outside and you can, I believe you can hear some of the comments being passed by some supporters outside. What are some of the comments that are being passed?
Hello.
Hello, Curtis.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, I am asking that since you are outside and you can hear some of the comments from the supporters, what are some of the comments that are being made by these supporters?
Okay, yes. One thing that's happening at the court premises, outside the court premises, is that almost everybody, every supporter of either political party or all those who came to the court premises, even including lawyers and the media, everybody is monitoring on radio and on TV one way or the other. Most people are in their vehicles monitoring the events from there. Most people are with their earpieces and monitoring the events from their phone. And those who have access to TV, as in where they can get TV stands, are standing in small groups also watching the events there. And occasionally, when a case goes in favor of their party, or then you hear hand claps, they'll be clapping, they'll be making comments as a they'll be cheering up the lawyers. But so that's really what is really happening now. Everybody's monitoring the event and they're waiting patiently at the end of the day to see what this case today's case will come out to be. Yeah.
Is there anything like tension among the crowd outside?
For now, all I can say is that the crowd and the people here they are being attentive. They are listening to the issue. I won't say they are tensed up, or I will say that their attention has been engaged by what is really happening in the court premises. And that is because all of them, they are focused, their attention, everybody, others are also, it's like everybody's having water bottles because they just don't want to leave a minute to make sure that they go elsewhere and they'll miss one or two things. So the attention is just on what is happening inside the court premises, and they're listening with rapt attention.
Ani was inside the courtroom. Is he by you that we can talk to him?
Yes, Ani Osabute is just by me at the moment. You can speak to him to
right.
The situation in court.
Okay. Hello, Ani.
Hello?
Hello, Ani.
No,
hello, Ani. Good afternoon.
You need to call back in. You need to talk to him just about 2 minutes or so. Because
all right.
Still on the phone. Yeah, you need to call in about 2 minutes.
All right. Okay. So we do well to call back Annie, as Curtis says, in 5 minutes. But before we call Annie, today the Accra Human Rights Court is hearing the reinstatement case of Deputy Head of Police Commercial Crimes Unit, Gifty Mawenyega Tehoda. The hearing has been adjourned on 4 occasions at the instance of the state attorneys representing the former police chiefs in the matter. Gifty Tehoda was dismissed from her post after being implicated in the mysterious cocaine swap case at the CID headquarters and arrested by the Bureau of National Investigations. The West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP Ghana, has identified the Greater Accra, Ashanti and Northern regions as the most violent in the country. This is contained in WANEP's quarterly report on the nation's security alert areas. In view of this, WANEP Ghana is encouraging the security agencies to be on high alert in preserving the nation's peace, especially during the period of the election petition trial. WANEP Ghana further urged both the election petitioners and respondents to view the election petition process as addressing the challenges and deficiencies of Ghana's electoral processes, but not as a win or lose contest. Moving on to some other stories. We're trying to get through to my colleague Ani Osabute, who was inside the court during the petitions hearings. But as we try to get through to him, we're looking at some other stories. The Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, on Tuesday confirmed that the poor quality and substandard BE Safe condoms that has hit the Ghanaian market was manufactured by a Chinese company called Henan Zaibei Latex Company Limited. The company also has its manufacturing address as number 300 Zhuangshan Industrial Zone, Yanzhen, Xianxian City, Henan Province, and China. The poor quality Be Safe condoms were supplied by Harless Limited, an Indian company in Kenya, through their local agent Global Unilink Limited, whose chief executive officer is one Mr. Kofi Yali. The Be Safe condoms tested at the FDA's medical devices laboratories failed to meet quality standards and were found to have holes and burst easily under pressure and could easily break during sex. The FDA said users were at risk of contracting sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV and AIDS and unwanted pregnancies. The condoms were also of smaller than normal size and not adequately lubricated. The FDA has seized about 110,000 pieces of the condoms whilst investigations continue. In a statement issued by the FDA in Accra and copied to the Ghana News Agency, alerted the public that it had seized a large consignment of the condoms. It said the packaging of the product has no manufacturer's name and address, but only an inscription manufactured in PRC. The fake condoms have the following batch numbers: CQ20124734, CQ20124735, CQ20124739, CQ20124751, CQ201761, and CQ20124791. The FDA assures the public of continued vigilance in its enforcement activity to promote public health and safety. It appealed to the public to provide information on individuals suspected of endangering public health and safety. We catch our breath here. When we return, we have more stories coming your way. Stay tuned. We now have my colleague Annie Osabute, who was inside the court, to update us on how exactly things went. Hello, Annie.
Hi, good afternoon, Gladys.
Good afternoon, Annie. Yes, so tell us what exactly went on and how was the atmosphere like?
Well, first of all, let me just say that the atmosphere, as usual, is very calm and very quiet. And prior to the court, people come in and they joke around. In the morning earlier on, I saw Sir John and Afarijan were having it. Kind of a little of a banter, but it looks like Sir John was saying something that Afarijan was not too pleased with. But, then the lawyers came in and the first witness was called into the board. But prior to that, there was bits and bits of questions as to whether or not the second and the third respondent had served all their 1,000 plus, and whether they served all their written affidavits on the petitioners. And so, lawyer Philip Addison wanted a clarification on that. But he said that notwithstanding, Dr. Mahmoud Daumia was called to the witness box. He was asked of his name, where he lives, why is he here, and all of that. And then he talked about the fact that he's in court because for him, himself and the first respondent in the person of Nana Akufo-Addo and the party chairman, Jacob Idris, believe that the elections results are declared by the Electoral Commission, was not true to the fact, and therefore they are challenging the issues. And there he was led in evidence until he started stating the issues about overvoting and the fact that prior to the election, the Electoral Commission itself had said that in the event that overvoting takes place, it compromises the integrity of the entire process, and therefore the results will have to be annulled. And it was about giving two examples to elaborate his point when the EC's lawyer and the person of James Kwasi stood on his grounds and he raised an objection to the fact that, what Dr. Baumia is saying it is not part of their pleadings. That is not part, when they were filing their written affidavit, they didn't include that. So it's more or less like you are doorstepping them or ambushing them with that, and therefore they will not agree, which was equally seconded or supported by the first and the third respondent. That is lawyers for Tony, John Mamada, Tony Lita, and Taji Chikata. Gladys.
And we have been watching on TV, but you being on the ground, how is the mood like? Is it any situation like a win or lose situation, or is actually nothing like that? Whichever one is actually judged, everybody would be peaceful?
No, for now, it's kind of a very relaxed atmosphere. For whichever way the argument goes for, it's never excited because, in between time, I keep looking at Sergio and Afedin Ketia because they appear to be the two main people who kind of, push the propaganda button, so to speak, for want of a better word, for the supporters of their parties. Okay, so in between time, depending on how the argument is going, I tend to watch their faces from each time, and depending on how it goes, either it is a smile or kind of a very calm composure. But it's too early to say who is winning what and who is not winning what. The proceedings have just started. there's a stalemate. Now the Supreme Court will just come back, take a seat, and rule as to whether or not the issues or the what Dr. Bawumia said was part of the affidavit, was part of the evidence that they intend to tender, or the part of the pleadings that they intend to prosecute their case with, or the objection that has been raised by the EC that they appear to have been ambushed by what Dr. Bawumia is, whether it to be allowed to stand or it will be pushed aside. Yeah.
All right, Annie, I'll leave you here to go back and continue watching closely at what is happening inside the court. Thanks so much for that update, Annie. That was my colleague, Annie Osabute, who was updating us and telling us what he has been observing closely inside the courtroom. Now, Iranian President Ahmadinejad has visited Ghana, and he held some talks with President Mahama this morning. Let's go over and speak to our presidential correspondent, Gifty Ando Apia, who will be telling us how exactly the visit has gone. Hello, Gifty.
Hello, Gladys.
Good afternoon, Gifty, and I hope you're well.
Yes, Gladys, I'm well.
All right, so what did the two presidents talk about?
Well, the two presidents earlier on had bilateral meetings that were in camera, and in that meeting they signed memoranda of understanding, 4 of them, on agriculture, education, youth and sport, and tourism. And so they finalized all these documents, and those documents were signed by ministers of relevant sector ministers of both sides of the country. They also issued a communique. The communique was not read out to us due to time, but we have copies of them that we'll be putting together for our viewers. And President Mahama had been answering some questions, that were posed to him, because then they held a press conference after their bilateral meetings. And one of the questions he was answering was whether Ghana wasn't drawing needless attention to itself, seeing as Iran has had issues with the international community due to its nuclear program. And the answer that President Mahama gave was that he believed that countries of the world belong together and that it was necessary to cooperate and confront the issues, discuss the issues that confront us. He also said that if President Ahmadinejad was touring Africa and decided then to visit Ghana, Ghana could only accept or receive him, or as it were, welcome him, just like Ghana would accept or welcome any other president of the world. Another question that was posed to President Ahmadinejad was whether he wasn't just trying to form alliances with developing countries due to sanctions that have come against him from the United Nations because of its nuclear program. And in his answer, he has some lashes for the Western world. He says that Iran has never had any quarrels with the world, with the West, but it was the West that was having quarrels with Iran, attacking them and plundering their resources. He said that Iran hasn't launched any military attacks, but Iran is surrounded by Western troops who are always posing threats to Iran. Then he went on and on and on with figures of what Iran was doing and how it is now doing, even though the sanctions are being placed against them. So, Gladys, these are some of the things that they've been talking about here. But President Mahama indicated at the end of the program that most of the relations, most of the interactions that Ghana will be having with Iran will be basically based on business.
Another interest that we have is to find out how the prospects of this visit. I'm not too sure if you have gathered anything about that yet, or you have something you can share with us.
Sorry, Gladys, I can't hear you. Say that again.
Something of interest is the prospects of the visit to Ghana, and I'm wondering if you have been able to gather anything on that topic.
Basically everything is centered around the NAM, the non-aligned movement, which Ghana is a member of. Most of the... It looks to me, though, that the visit is basically about the NAM. And because Iran is heading the NAM now, and Ghana is a member of it, the visit is basically centered around it and how to collaborate between these countries. I mean, we all know that the nuclear issues are outstanding and everything, but in the discussions that they've had this morning, it looks more like everything is centered on the NAM. He'll be visiting some of the Iranian establishments around here, the Iranian clinic and the Islamic school here, and looking around. These are areas that Iran is collaborating with Ghana to improve education and health.
Thank you so much for that briefing from the castle. And finally, Gifty, has he left?
No, he has not left. He just left the Flagstaff House. He's headed to the Islamic University, but he's expected to leave the country today. So I do not know whether he will leave immediately. I do not have details as to exactly what time he'll be leaving, but he just left the Flagstaff House.
All right, Gifty, thank you so much for that briefing. That was my colleague Gifty Ando-Appiah, who was updating us on how the visit of President Ahmadinejad to Ghana has been so far. And that, moving on to some other stories, participants at a day's capacity building workshop on gender-based violence in the Bunahafo regional capital, Sunyani, have signed a communique entreating the media to be more tactful in reporting on gender-based violence issues. According to the communique, the media, especially local language newscasters, have always made victims of domestic violence look stupid.
The capacity building training was organized by ActionAid Ghana to equip media personnel in the Bunahafo region with the necessary tools in responding to gender-based violence. The media personnel were taking through some ethical issues in media response, basic and support skills when working with victims, as well as police procedures in handling gender-based violence. The Bunahafo Regional Program Officer in charge of education for ActionAid Ghana, Afram Dinchira Kwame, advised the media to see the police as partners in promoting peace within the domestic setting and also use their medium to empower victims of domestic violence.
We further have a key role to educate the public on the preservation of evidence and let them understand that early report of violence helps the police effectively prosecute the case in court. It is my fervent hope, therefore, that our friends in the media world will find this program educative, refreshing, and useful for their reportage in relation to gender-based violence and other related issues.
Program Officer in charge of gender, John Abba, tells Joy News the interest of ActionAid Ghana in equipping the media in tackling gender-based violence issues.
ActionAid Ghana has women as the central team for whatever they do, and the media is a friend who always predict most of the things that we do to the public. That is why we thought it wise to bring together the media personnel in the region to go through a one-day training together with DOFSU on gender-based violence.
Jordius spoke with some of the participants.
Legislative instrument empowering the officials of DOFSU or the police to work is not forthcoming. I personally feel this is too bad on the part of our parliamentarians. So it's high time they sit down, they treat it with all the importance it deserves.
With our newscasters, especially their canned news readers, the way they make rape cases sound so funny. It shouldn't be that way. So we should learn to be sensitive. We should learn to educate the public, since they listen to the media world, to know that women issues are issues that should be serious.
Nesta Kafuya Juma's report from the Bunahafo region.
As part of their objectives to eradicate poverty, international NGO ActionAid Ghana has organized an open forum to dialogue with some communities in Accra. The forum is aimed at giving members of these communities the opportunity to register their concerns or problems and collectively figure out how to solve them.
Representatives of the various communities that ActionAid has impacted were present, including some government officials, Ghana Health Service representatives, and ActionAid duty bearers. According to Madam Ajua Kwatin Kluviche, Country Director of ActionAid Ghana, The forum offered a timely platform for each party to know the problems facing the communities and how best to fashion out solutions.
This meeting is a way of bringing together members of the community and the duty bearers, the members of the government who are to provide services, protect and fulfill and promote the rights of the rights holders, i.e. the people in the community. So it's an opportunity for us to bring the two factions together, for them to have a dialogue, so that the duty bearers can hear what the communities are saying, can identify the priorities, and then we can plan together how we are going to achieve the demands of the community.
Some represent.
We now bring you sports. Ghana Football Association Technical Director Oti Akinton says criticisms against the Black Starlets must stop despite their shaky start to their African Under-17 Championship in Morocco, and Usain Bolt has been confirmed for London Anniversary Games this summer.
The Black Starlets began the tournament with an embarrassing 6-1 defeat to Nigeria in their opening B game last Sunday. Coach Parkwesi Fabian, who admitted at being shocked at the defeat, has received a lot of bashing from some soccer fans. With the second Group B fixture against Congo on Wednesday, ex-Ghana coach Oti Akinton, who is now the technical director of the Ghana Football Association, wants supporters to calm down and continue offering support to the team. Speaking to Joy News, Oti Akinton admonished the Black Starlets that they should not be cut off at this point and criticized for their performance. He adds, emphasis should not be placed only on winning, because this is an under-17 tournament, and the idea FIFA brought was not only based on winning, but to develop the players.
We take you back to the Supreme Court, where Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia is on the stand. Thanks so much for your company.